Well, happy Boxing Day and good morning to everybody. I'm just going to upload this straight away, so it's going to be straight from the hip. It's not going to be planned, and basically just talking, I suppose, about my reflections on what's happened in the movement, what's happened this year, and maybe a quick look towards 2025. And again, thanking the people that have really put the necks on the line, that have done a lot of work in the background and very rarely get too much credit for what they do. So we'll start off with January 2024. Now, being brutally honest, and this is just me being completely candid, I was pretty much ready for the hills in January of this year. I was pretty much done with being involved in the movement. I was, completely worn out and had all sorts of issues going on, and I was ready to walk away. And then Tommy decided to do the event in Telford. And again, we can't use the name of the actual films because of the censorious nature of social media. But these are the films that Tommy's been making about the grooming scandal in Telford, and obviously, I've been very much involved with that since the inception, along with quite a few other people. And he had the latest installment. I think, if I remember right, I think it was the end of January that we went to Telford and screened that film, and we could tell there was something happened at that event. There was a good crowd. I mean, we were standing in a car park in Telford in the Midlands, not a massive mecca for people to go to and for people to spend time there. No disrespect to Telford, but it's not exactly a metropolis. And I think we probably had 3,000 or 4,000 people, maybe more, came to watch the premiere of that film and stood in the cold in January for what, 3 or 4 hours. Again, totally peaceful, totally respectful, just a brilliant day. And something happened on that day that reinvigorated me. I met with a friend, and we decided we'd start having a prayer meeting once a week for Tommy. And last couple of weeks with Christmas, we've kind of slipped a bit on that, but that's pretty much stayed faithful. Once a week online, we meet up and we pray for Tommy and pray for the movement, pray for everybody in the movement. That's not me being pious. That's me doing that out of an absolute need and necessity, because when I don't go down that road, all sorts of wheels come off the bus and I get myself into all sorts of bothers. So that's one thing that came out of the event in Telford. But as well as that, I think all of us got reinvigorated for taking to the streets, for doing protests, for rebuilding the movement. And since then, there's been some absolutely amazing developments. Fast forward to April, and we did the St. George's Day event. And again, Danny organised the staging and the location. And it was a great event. And, believe you me, the way that was going, there was a lot of pressure, because that wasn't actually organised. But I think the event happened on the Tuesday, and that the final organisation for that wasn't in place until the Monday. So to actually pull that off and get it, even to the extent that we got it, we had no stewards. Andy Saxon came and did security and lent us some of his lads to help with security around the stage and so on and so forth. And I think we had probably, 4,000 or 5,000 people at that event, give or take. And it was an amazing event. It was the speeches were fantastic. The atmosphere was fantastic. It was pretty much at the gates of Downing Street. There was a little bit of hassle with the police, which again, I've my views on it, and I think the police massively overplayed the hand on that one. And after what came out of that event was, through speaking to Tommy, we decided that we would straight away, as soon as we decide to do an event, inform the police and make sure that we were having high-level conversations with people in the Metropolitan Police public order units so that they knew what our intentions were and we knew what their intentions were. And we've done that ever since, and it has prevented any major disorder happening between the police and our supporters. And I've got to say, you know, I'll give credit where credit's due. The team that we've been working with for the subsequent events after St. George's Day have been very, very balanced and fair. And there's been a few things I haven't been happy with. There's been a few things, no doubt, that they haven't been happy with from our side. So going out of the St. George's Day event, because that was organised at such short notice, it was a weekday, and we still had thousands of people there celebrating St. George's Day. The next thing that was decided was that we would start doing these events in London. And we did the first Uniting the Kingdom event. It wasn't called Uniting the Kingdom. It wasn't called Uniting the Kingdom. I can't remember what it was called. But we did the first big event in Parliament Square on the 1st of June. And again, it was fantastic. We did the march from Victoria Station, Vauxhall Bridge Road, Millbank, into the square. There was one minor incident in the crowd, which has nothing to do with politics. It was just, you know, high spirits. But apart from that, there was nothing untoward happened. And, you know, that was so the stewards and the security working together, doing a fantastic job. And it was a peaceful event. And more than that, it was a massive event. It was a monumental event. Remember, this was just before the general election. So we still had the Conservatives in charge when we did this one. And the reality of the situation is that we believe that Nigel Farage decided to stand for office because we had, 50,000 people in Parliament Square. And it was very soon after that Farage decided to stand. And again, the platform, we had such a diverse crowd of speakers. We had ministers of religion, we had politicians, we had spokesmen for various different causes, musicians, and of course we had Tommy's film, which again went down an absolute storm. Again, people standing there for hours watching films that have been made by Tommy. And again, what happened was Tommy got back his passion as well for the movement and for doing this. He knew what was facing him. He knew that he was facing these court proceedings. He knew that he was going to be, what I believe is, wrongfully and illegally imprisoned. We've talked about the categorization and what's been going on there. But the event was absolutely fantastic. Great atmosphere, great sense of unity. And what I've found is that that's been growing. And I mean, one of my appeals, and I say this all the time and I mean it, I disagree with a lot of people about a lot of things, right? If I've a problem with an ideology or with a doctrine or with a political idea, I will speak to the person who's got that idea, and I will tell them why I disagree with them, and I'll put my point across forcefully. I'm talking about within the parameters of our movement. I'm not talking about the far right sort of goose-stepping nut jobs. I'm talking within our sort of narrow band, which I would say runs from the right wing of the Conservative Party to UKIP. I think that's the band that we fit into, and that includes reform and non-politically aligned people. But basically, we're what can be loosely described as civic nationalists. We believe in the nation state. We believe in the ideas behind the nation state, predominantly Christianity, and we believe that our culture and our nation should be built on those ideas, irrespective of race or background. And obviously that brings a lot of people into the movement and into I suppose British culture that may not have traditionally saw themselves as that. You know, we've got loads of Sikhs involved with us, got loads of Hindus, loads of Jewish people, people of different ethnicities. And what we've always said is the main thing is, you know, like Paul Thorpe says, and I love this phrase that he uses, it's not the colour of your skin, it's what colour your heart is. Is your heart red, white and blue? In other words, are you patriotic to the core? And do you love this country? And do you love the culture and history of this country? So that's what started building in on the 1st of June. And it was absolutely superb. Great atmosphere, peaceful demonstration. Then we fast forward to the end of July event. And honestly, I've never been at an event like that in my life until the next one after it. But that event in Trafalgar Square took a lot of hassle, a lot of organisation. And what we'd started doing then, because of what had happened on the St George's Day thing, and also a couple of minor incidents on the 1st of June, we decided we needed, as well as the stewards, who are obviously great for marshalling people and getting people in the right place and holding the line and keeping everybody behind a certain perimeter and where they should go and where they shouldn't go. But we realised we actually needed proper badged security, and for the first time we only had probably about 10 people doing that on the 27th of July. But well, I named the people that did it. I probably will. I'll just use the first names. But there was about half a dozen people stopped a riot happening on that day, because what happened on the 27th of July, the police decided to march a guy with a Palestinian flag right past Trafalgar Square and right past our event. And a few of us saw that, got ourselves out onto the road, and basically prevented some of our people who were incensed about it from going and having I'm not saying they're going to be violent, but they were angry and they were going to express that anger to the police. And that, the reality is, if you've got very aggressive police officers and you've got very aggressive supporters of our crowd, there is a real danger that could descend into violence. So about 6 to 8 of us put ourselves across the road. Jamie, John, Paul. If there's others there, and there was others there, I apologise if I'm not naming you, because I know there were others there. But again, I'm doing this off the cuff, so I haven't really thought about who was actually there. And the stewards, there's people from the stewards team came as well, and so there was a line across the road, and that stopped the supporters, our supporters, going up and having an altercation with the police who'd marched this guy past the back of our event. And it was a very provocative thing to do, and it was done deliberately provocative after we'd been given assurances that wouldn't happen. But because we had that little tiny thin line of extra security, it meant that event passed off peacefully. And it could have gone very badly wrong if that had have gone in the wrong direction. So that just led us to think, well, look, we need to build this crowd security team into an even bigger entity. And Big Paul, he's been going great guns at that, and he's got a good team there now. Good team. Probably, I think, about 50 or 60 people in that team who can be relied upon. You know, it's like at an event, if 50 or 60 people say they're coming, you'll probably get 30 to 40, but that's okay. That's absolutely fine. It's enough to deal with what we need to deal with at these events. And obviously that works really well, because it means that the stewards can do what they do, which they're excellent at, and obviously the crowd security can do what they do. Tommy's security team and the sort of VIP security can do their thing. So it means that the security element of those events is totally locked down. And again, the event itself, music, Ricky Doolan, banging out those tunes at every event, absolutely fantastic. Again, we had ministers of religion speaking. There was a bishop from Wales who came and spoke and lifted the roof off. Absolutely superb. Political speakers. Just a great day and a great event. And again, in the crowd, we had a lot of Reform people, a lot of Reform supporters, a lot of Reform politicians or people who were involved in politics in Reform came to that event and supported that event. I'm not sure whether it was that event or the previous one. Then we had the very unfortunate issue of Richard Tice saying that he wouldn't have anything to do with that lot. And when he was talking about that lot, he was talking about not just Tommy Robinson, but everybody that was going to those events, Tommy Robinson supporters. It's very, very clear And I think this is a big problem, that Tice, and I don't know where Farage, well, we do know where Farage stands on it, 'cause he stands pretty much four square with Tice on this. They don't really want anything to do with the British working class. They're happy enough to take your votes, but they don't really want to mix with us. They don't really want to be involved with that lot. And I think they're underestimating the massive support that Tommy's got, and the massive goodwill that Tommy's got as well. So then we moved away from the 27th of July on a real high. You know, Tommy'd shown his film, again, went down an absolute storm. And the very next day, was it the 28th of July, Tommy's arrested on terrorism charges. So we very hurriedly put together an event, or a demonstration actually, outside Downing Street. And believe you me, the policing of that was, they were trying to find an excuse to push us off the streets. And again, this is where it's a good idea to know the law and to know what you can do in terms of a flash demonstration and a flash event. You can pretty much go and stand there, as long as you're not blocking the road, as long as you're not causing a nuisance, as long as you're not obstructing people or physically stopping people from going about their business. You can go and do a static demo. And that's what we did. We got a free Tommy banner, and I think Smithy got the Tommy banner, so well done to you, Smithy. And we stood there with the free Tommy banner, and we had an event, and we had about 200 people literally called within 2 hours. 200 people turned up in central London to do an event, which is not a bad ask, because we don't have massive social media reach. We've got a bit, but not as, obviously we're restricted, because we're restricted on what social media platforms we can use because of the censorship that we're all under. So yeah, it was great to have that many people out, and Tommy was released that night, because the police came up to me and they said, "How long are you going to stay here?" I said, "We're going to stay here until he's released." Of course, within hours, Tommy was released, which was good news, because it meant we could all clear off. I think we'd already cleared off anyway, but yeah, it doesn't do any harm to put that sort of pressure on. Then we fast forward, and on the Monday after Tommy's arrest, there was this terrible, disgusting attack by this monster who we know had an Al-Qaeda manual, who we know was making ricin, or is accused of. So in other words, they found an Al-Qaeda manual when they searched his property, and they found evidence of ricin. So that tells you everything you need to know about the guy that carried out that attack. But the reality is, nobody was told that at the time. And I think it is beyond belief that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper didn't know about that within hours of that man's door going in. I believe they would have known that within minutes, once that evidence had been taken back to the police station and they'd realised what it was. I believe that the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary would have known immediately. And they kept that quiet. And the riots that happened as a result of that attack, and that's what happened. There was the ridiculous gaslighting by the state and by the media, saying that this guy was a Welsh guy. I mean, what was he? Some barrel-chested ex-rugby player? You know, was he a guy that had worked in the steelworks that got disenfranchised? No, none of those things. But the spin that was put on it was that he was a Welshman. And the reality is, his parents were migrants who come from Rwanda after the genocide. And this monster is alleged to have had an Al-Qaeda manual and ricin in his possession. They're the things that have been put out by the government. Now, there's all sorts of other rumours as well about him shouting Al Akbar and all sorts of other stuff. Now, we don't know if that's true or not, but that's the rumours that are out there. There's also the rumours that he's been going to mosque in prison. Again, they're rumours. We don't know for sure whether they're true. So, I want to say that categorically, but they are rumours. And of course, people, when the events happened and the ensuing riots, people were imprisoned for repeating things that turned out to be true, that turned out to be absolutely accurate. And this is the horrific thing about what's happening in this country, that not only was the nation gaslit, but I believe that the way Starmer handled those riots has done more to alienate the white British working class than any other politician in British history. I genuinely believe that. Because people were righteously angry. People should not ever go out and burn and riot and smash people's windows and damage people's cars and beat people up on either side of any contention. Nobody should ever do that. But people have a right to be angry, and they have a right to vent that anger on social media. And I believe people went to prison that are political prisoners for making posts on social media that were not illegal. They went and they pleaded guilty because they were put under massive pressure by the judicial system. Starmer was calling for scalps. Starmer wanted people in prison. And that is a stain on the British justice system that will not go away. And the British people will not forgive or forget Keir Starmer for what he's done, because it was absolutely disgusting. And it still trundles on. There are still people getting dragged before the courts and arrested and charged and sent away for ridiculously long amounts of time for minor offences. Peter Lynch being a prime example. The man killed himself in prison because he couldn't take the disgusting circumstances that he found himself in. That poor man just couldn't take anymore and killed himself. His blood is on Starmer's hands, in my opinion. It's as plain and simple as that. And if you don't agree with that, well, that's up to you. But that's what I believe. That's what I believe. If Starmer hadn't been so adamant, basically barking orders at the judicial system to lock people up and put them away. So we'd had that great event. We'd had the arrest of Tommy. We'd had the ensuing riots. Then, of course, Tommy went abroad. He was going on holiday with his family. He knew he was facing court at the... did he know about October? I can't remember whether he knew when he was going to be in court, but he knew he was facing court. And of course, obviously, once he'd screened the film, the court system, the lackeys of the far right agitators, hate without hope, were all over it, calling for his head, and all the usual stuff that those vile, disgusting, creepy, slithering, slimy little creeps in Hate Without Hope do. Just a disgusting set of people, a disgusting organisation. But they were going for Tommy, and the media were going for Tommy, and Tommy's basically on his holidays. And the Daily Mail are publishing photographs of him sitting by the pool, publishing photographs of people that he was with, compromising the location where he was staying. He had to flee from there, had to leave the place that he was on holiday, and he basically ended up pretty much a fugitive, obviously living on his own, in a foreign country, without his support network, without his friends, without his family, and under real pressure, both psychological, spiritual, and physical. And a lot of us were very, very worried about Tommy while that was all going on. Then we decided to do an event when he came back, because we knew he was coming back. We knew he was coming back to face justice. So we decided to do another Uniting the Kingdom event. So the event in Trafalgar Square was, I think, the first Uniting the Kingdom event. The one that we did in Parliament Square wasn't called Uniting the Kingdom. I can't remember what we called it, but the second one was Uniting the Kingdom. And the second event we had was Uniting the Kingdom, and the third event was Uniting the Kingdom. And let me back up to a bit I've missed out. We launched a project called The Pledge. And The Pledge was something that a few of us got together several years ago and talked about, based on some essays by a good friend of mine and some ideas from some other people. And we all kind of moulded our ideas together, built a website, launched the website. We didn't really do anything with it. We just had it very, very low key for quite a long time. And then in, I think it was July, middle of July, we had a meeting in central London, where we got some of the finest minds in our movement together in a room. And it was the meeting was run by a good friend of mine, and we had a brainstorming session. And what came out of that eventually was the text that is now on the pledge.org.uk website. And if you haven't signed it, please go and sign the pledge.org.uk. But one of the conversations we had, and I was sitting, Father Calvin Robinson, I think, was sitting to my left. Paul Thorpe, I think, was sitting to my right, if I remember rightly. Katie Hopkins was there. So it was a good crowd. I mean, Maya Tusi, Lawrence Fox, a really good crowd. Stefan from Visegrad, Dave Atherton, Jared Batten, Jeff Taylor, Tommy. So it was a really, there's probably other people there as well. So if I've missed anyone out, I do apologise. Momus. So there was a good crowd there, really, really smart people. And I found Katie Hopkins absolutely delightful. I thought she was a really, really fun, nice, polite, good person to be around. A lot of energy, you know, and everybody in the room was like that. The whole room was filled with a really, really positive energy. And one of the things that came out of that, apart from the text of the pledge, now the text had been basically written already, but it was the tweaking of the text, if you like. So apart from the text of the pledge being tweaked, was Father Calvin Robinson came up with the idea of uniting the kingdom, which just stuck. We were just talking and we were talking, what do we call it? Unite the kingdom? No. Do we call it, you know, United Kingdom, whatever? No. Do you call it British, whatever? No. And then Calvin just said, what about uniting the kingdom? And what Calvin said was, he wasn't just talking about uniting the kingdom as in the UK, but he was talking about uniting the kingdom of God. I mean, you know, he's a priest, he's a man of the cloth, and his idea was, yes, you're uniting the United Kingdom, but you're uniting the Christian kingdom as well, which I thought was a nice touch and a very clever, I'm going to say spin, I can't think of a better word, but a clever spin to put on the idea and what we're trying to do. So uniting the kingdom came out of that. So we had the first Uniting the Kingdom in July. We had the second one in October, 26th of October, I think it was. And we knew there was a chance that Tommy would be arrested. But he came back to the country the Sunday before and he didn't get arrested. So we thought, well, okay, he's going to go to court. Maybe he's not going to get a custodial sentence. Maybe he's going to be, you know, he's going to get a slap on the wrist or whatever. So we were all ready for the event. The police were all ready for the event. And we were doing the last minute negotiations with the police about routes and about safety and so on and so forth. And of course, while I'm on the phone to the police, I was sitting with Paul Thorpe and I think Danny. I was sitting with Paul Thorpe and Danny, and the call came through. Excuse me. I think Jeff was there. The call came through that that Tommy had been arrested and remanded, and the police didn't even know. We talked to the police; they didn't even know that it happened, and they went into a bit of a panic because they're going, "Are you guys going to be able to control this? You know, I mean, Tommy's going to be arrested. There's going to be a lot of very angry people there." And we calmed them down. We said, "Look, everything's going to be okay. You don't have to worry about this. The security situation's completely okay. We can calm people down. We've got some good people in the crowd. We've got some good people stewarding. We've got some good people doing security. Everything will be fine." And it was. So fast forward to the actual morning of the event, and the event was called for 11 o'clock. And what happened was, we had people arriving probably from about 9:30 in the morning. So I think by about 10:30, the form-up area was completely filled. Now, the briefings and the briefings of the stewards were kind of still taking place as people were filtering down. So there was only a handful of security and stewards in that area when people started filling up the street. And of course, the police then moved in numbers to block the street, and the crowd didn't really know what was happening. And I'll give credit where credit's due. Kaz and Tony and the stewards got to the front of that line and they blocked the road, and they put a cordon in of high-vis stewards, and that certainly calmed it down. Then the security got there, then we got there, and everything was okay. Everything was completely under control, because the danger is always, if you got patriots facing what can appear sometimes to be a hostile line of police officers, and you've got thousands of people in that area, it can very quickly go wrong. And thankfully, the stewards got there first, then the security got there, and everything was completely calmed down. And it went off really, really well. And we just did a very short march from where we were on Victoria Street down to Parliament Square, and I can't remember I think it was Prince Charles Way. I can't remember. It's a road just off Whitehall where we set up the vehicle, and again a massive crowd. I think I'm minded to say when we did Trafalgar Square, there was north of 100,000, and I would say we'd be in the same similar sort of numbers for the one in Victoria. There would have been, when we set off, I'm convinced there was around 100,000 people in that crowd. Now, obviously, people thin out because a lot of people go to pubs and what have you. You know, once the march is finished. But I'm pretty convinced there was around 100,000 people at that event on the 26th of October. And of course, Tommy wasn't there. So just a fantastic atmosphere. Despite Tommy not being there, the atmosphere was absolutely superb. Liam Tufts compared the thing. I helped him out a bit. It was great. It was positive. There was such a feeling of unity and love and togetherness and positivity, even despite Tommy being remanded. And then, of course, the week after, Tommy goes to court and he gets 18 months in prison. And that's where we are now. We're sitting there. Tommy's in prison. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. He's been put in a situation where he's the wrong category. He's been categorized as I think a category C prisoner, and he should be a category D prisoner. He's in a category B prison. He's segregated. He's locked up for 21 hours a day. He's only getting 4 visits a week. He's only allowed 3 hours exercise a day, which he's using, and he's doing well. He's still having to eat his own food. He can't eat the prison food because he still doesn't think the prison food's safe. So he's basically eating tin tuna, whatever food that is brought into him by his family for visits. So he's in a very, very difficult situation. And here we are on Boxing Day, and he's just spent literally the whole time locked up instead of being with his family. And to me, that has to be the priority. We have to change this in 2025. And we have to change it early in 2025. So what we've decided to do, we've called an event for the 1st of February. And that event is going to be focused on the political prisoners, focused on the judiciary, focused on the two-tier judiciary, and focused specifically on Tommy's situation within the prison system, where he is not in the, he is quite probably, in fact I believe for sure, he's been held illegally in the circumstances he's being held in, because he should be in a D category prison. He should be being able to get out on day release. He should be able to work in the community. He should be getting home 1 day a week, and pretty much from January he should actually be out on a tag and able to stay in his house, free from all this nonsense that he's going through, this solitary confinement, which is mental torture. I went to visit Tommy, as you know. One of the encouraging things he told me, that he's doing Bible study with a pastor every Monday. He said he's a Pentecostal guy. He said he's one of us. He speaks at our level, which is great, because that's what we need. We need people speaking to us, not in language that nobody understands, but in language that everybody gets and everybody understands. So 1st of February, everybody and his dog needs to be in central London for the next event. The exact location of where it's going to go from and where it's going to go to, well, we've a good idea where we're going to go to, but we're not putting out where we're going to go from yet, because we don't exactly know. There's 2 or 3 different routes and two or three different start points. So I can't put anything out, because at the minute we haven't got it finalised with the police. So that's a work in progress. But we want to see the same numbers, because it's just as important to get to these events when Tommy's not there as when he is there. And if we saw 100,000 people on the streets on the 1st of February, that sends out a massive message to this government. So that's where we're at. The pledge, that's keeping on rolling. Keep signing the pledge, keep sharing it. We want to get that up to a million subscribers this year. We're sitting, I think, just shy of 70,000. I need to double check. think we're sitting just shy of 70,000 at the minute. But you need to keep sharing it. You need to keep promoting it, because the pledge is the only way to hold politicians and political parties to account. It's the only way that people have power. Because if you're putting your trust in a political party, no matter which political, and I'm a member of UKIP, I'm on the NEC of UKIP, so my support is with UKIP, and that's where I stand. UKIP to me are the closest to what I believe, and that's why I'm a member of UKIP. Do I agree with everything that happens in UKIP? No. Do I agree with everything that happens in any other area of my life? No. But it doesn't mean I don't support them and give them my full support. I will criticise where criticism is due, and where praise is due, I'll give praise. Okay? So the pledge to me is about holding all politicians and all political parties to account. And if you've got 1 million people supporting an ideological document that explains exactly what we believe and what it means to be British and what it means to be proud of being British, then that's very difficult for politicians to stand against and argue against. And that is what will make the difference in the election in 2029, because that will be used to hold the right-wing Conservatives to account, to hold the Reform Party to account, to hold UKIP to account, with which I'm a member, to hold any of the other minor parties to account, to hold politicians that are just coming up and starting their own things to account. So that's the measure, that's the dividing line. Do you support the pledge or do you not support the pledge? So guys, that's just my little summary of what happened in 2024 in the movement, and looking forward to I'm going to sneeze. I've been keep touching my nose. I've been got this cold over Christmas, which is not great. But anyway, putting all that aside, that's the summary. That's where we're at. That's what we're doing. So to anybody out there that's not sure about what we believe, go onto thepledge.org.uk. You'll find out exactly what our doctrine is, what our ideology is, what we believe. I recently had a problem in business after the 26th, where a major say partner of my business in respect of cooperation decided that my values didn't align with their values. So I've yet to know which values didn't align and what the problem is. But that's what happens. Doing this work is costly, and it can cost you a serious amount of time and money to do all this stuff. But it is what it is, and it's going to be worth it in the end. So guys, enjoy the rest of Christmas. Have an absolutely fantastic new year. 2025 is going to be even bigger than 2024. We're fighting against these despicable individuals that are running our country. We're doing it peacefully. We're doing it through the democratic process. And believe you me, we are going to win. I'll see you all soon.